Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comics Dello Morte, episode 58, A Tragic Pass with Jon Colunga. And John is going to be on the show, but right now we just want to do a review on the last issue because it is the last issue and it ties everything up. But, I'm Ronnie Gunter, Crimson Owl Comics, my co-host, Jason Alexander, Frogbreaker Studios. Before we get into this, my friend, do you have anything to promote?
Yeah, real quick, Minicomicbundles.com. Same old same, guys. The last bundle is coming out. I'm gonna pull up the website real quick, and I'll do a screen share. But yeah, Drifter, I believe, is probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite story that I've written and seen completed, and it's wrapping up in the next issue. My internet is so slow right now, guys. Here we go. But you guys know what you get. $60 or $5 a piece, but the whole thing is out now. So you may as well just get the whole thing. No pressure, but I just want to show y'all this real quick. Here we go. Minicomicbundles.com. You get I'll give you the recap. So there's 75 left, and I know that one annual subscription at least has sold this month because somebody in Portland got it and was getting it for
that's
a
cool.
Christmas gift. Yeah. So it was 3 comics in each bundle. All come to your door. If you get them all at once, you get Aaron's book. I don't know if he has any more of his 2019 books yet left, but if they're left, you can get one of those. You got Drifter, which has 2 parts. Actually, Drifter has 2 parts left. Okay. So 2 parts left to Drifter. It's kind of a kung fu mystic horror story. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out yet, Ronnie, but it's my favorite story that I've
love the
been
face.
a part of. Yeah, it's so awesome. We got Blackbird, which you saw in one of the early bundles, Green Roses. This is just kind of like a little action jump through a day in the life of a vigilante. And then you got Predictive Text, part 2 of 3. This was a 3-part horror. It does have a little bit of a supernatural creepiness to it, but my personal inspiration for it was Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock Psycho. Nice. I don't know if you guys will pick up on it, but it was fun to write. And Aaron's artwork, per usual, is A1, stellar, fantastic. Check out my Instagram. I've been a little bit quiet on there, Fallbreaker Studios. Also, I TikTok a little bit now at Fallbreaker Studios. And there's also a fallbreakerstudios.com coming. I have the website up. There's not much on it now. I'm working on a prose story that I'm gonna put up first, just because it's a story that's personal to me, and it's also I'm a writer, and it's like I want to really start to get serious about establishing myself in that field, and also it's like I write horror in Maine. Like that's pretty damn cool. Maybe one.
And you're not too far away
from
Stephen King.
Yeah, exactly. No big deal though. I just wanted to kind of see what I'm doing a little bit. But seriously, guys, check out my stuff. Like Instagram.com is still pretty much the information hub for right now. But I tell you what, Ronnie, I'm enjoying this TikTok thing a little bit. I really am. So we'll see what happens with that.
All right. And people, I am just literally a page away from completing episode 3 of A Benchful Heart. And I've sent Jason, I sent Gary and some other people the recent page that I did of the wizard guy being torn up by the mountain lion / cougar.
Yep.
And I think it's one of my most gruesome but detailed.
It's strong.
Pieces. Yeah.
It's strong, Ronnie. It's definitely worth a check out, guys. And when you go to Tapas, subscribe to Ronnie's channel, y'all. Like,
Yeah.
there's one more button to push while you're already there. You got 2 parts, like, of a Vengeful Heart. It's really good. It's tense. Ronnie is letting that thing go. So
yeah, I definitely think this third
Yeah.
episode has the most action and probably the most gore in it. So yeah.
But it counts. Like it's for a reason. So it makes the story even better, man. So keep it up, man. I'm excited to see part 3 all together collected.
Yeah, and after I complete episode 3, that's going to be like 15 pages done. So literally the book is halfway done. So that's pretty exciting.
I'm excited. Yep.
All right. So, yeah, Bleen, the final issue, man. What did you think about it?
It was a proper wrap up. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I also, without giving too much of the story away, because I really don't want to. Artwork is strong, story is strong. We know all of that. It was a very grounded story. Like for where we've come from. Yeah, it was very dark, but it was very grounded. I dug it. I thought it was a good read. It had good action, and it also just kind of I like the disturbing factor of it, especially like in the beginning with her with the bananas. Like it kind of lended itself to tell you even now, like last episode felt like she was kind of becoming like almost a superhero, but this episode like showed like even though she had this super dark creature with her, like it wasn't like she was completely innocent. Like she was starting to thrive in this. She was starting to ride the lightning a little bit in this one.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm definitely going to share one page just because I like
for sure. Yeah, the artwork is so good.
Let's see. Where was I? No, that's that one. Let me try to get back to it. But was there anyone that really pop out at you that you really liked?
Let's see. Let me look through my pages again because I had a couple marked. I just want to look through them real quick. So the scene where Victor was
right
getting
here
surrounded by the little monsters.
Yeah, but I love that they're all wearing masks and then they reveal their true face. So it's like, you don't think
we're killing themselves off.
Yeah, it's like you don't think we're scary enough. Wait until I get a chance to show you who I really look like. And that's what I really like. Oh, man. What's it doing that? No, go back. But yeah. I really like that page. It was really good.
Yeah. There was quite a few strong pages in the beginning because it established a lot of action. I think this one was about the same length as the other ones, but it was it was a quicker read, definitely.
Yeah, it was a quicker read, but it definitely was one of those things like with Jon doing the writing and Landon doing the artwork. It definitely had like that action to it, which it should because you pretty much now know who everyone is. So all you really have to do is just tell the gore at that part.
It's pretty cool when you can create mood with writing and artwork together. And I know that that's like an obvious thing to say, but I'm trying to explain this so that it makes sense.
No, it does because
like the story felt totally different. Like after the massacre in the cafeteria, the story, the rooms to me sounded different. Like everything felt empty and echoey through like this last chapter, as opposed to where it was like full of noise when everybody was there. Like you really felt like there was nobody left anymore.
Well, yeah, because these people that were like, probably not just harming her, but they were harming like the other children. Once those
Yeah.
people started like getting what they deserved, it's like at that point there was actually some peace without through the halls instead of
Yeah.
like tenseness and pain and anguish, because the real monsters are now taken care of.
Yeah. Up here, actually near like a place that we go a lot, it's called Pineland. It's called Pineland. But it was like a multi-building hospital way back. And sometimes you go out there and you look at where it is, and you think about it, because my doctor's office used to be there. And you wonder just like what was happening in these hallways, years and decades and decades ago, because the buildings are old, and they've seen a lot, and there's a lot of energy that gets trapped in places like that. And this book captured,
and also, who isn't watching, people
feeling.
who aren't watching, this is Jon's Instagram. Go subscribe to him.
For sure. And also
show the support and love, and buy their book.
Get this book. Go get the book, guys. It's really good. Good artwork, good writing. They're a good team. Like it'll kind of make you want some more from these guys. So check out all this stuff. Check out Jon Colunga's Instagram. Good shit. What's next, Ronnie?
I don't know. I have to find out, man. I have to find out, but hey, I usually do find good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was a good find. Like, I've enjoyed all the books that we've read, especially the ones that like have been from indie creators. But this one had a completely different feel. Like I feel like this was the first book that was more along the darkness lines of how you write in particular, with the vengeful heart. And like some of the stuff that I do is a little bit more like this last chapter. It's heavy and it's creepy, but there's a little bit of this could be happening, in the building down the street from you. You just don't know. Sure. And so it was a very, I don't know, it was nice to connect to somebody else's darkness for a little bit and go along with it.
So before we bring Jon on, because we don't want to go in full detail about the book and spoil the big end. Overall, not just this episode. Overall, the whole
whole shebang,
the whole book,
all 4 issues. I'm going to give this story I'm going to give it a 7.75 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think it was an awesome book. It was a book that would not have been on my radar independently, but man, it'll be part of my catalog of dope indie shit for sure. Like I'll get a physical of this because it's a really good read. And if you like comics, it's worth reading. If you like horror, it's definitely worth reading. And so it's indie all the way in the best way possible. It really, really is.
With me, I'm gonna give it overall. I'm gonna go a little bit higher than with you. I'm gonna give it a 8.5.
Nice.
There was some parts that I really, really liked, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 9, just because there was some parts that I really liked. That I'm like, man, I really like that, just because it went dark, like the way I like it going dark.
Yep.
So I'm gonna give it a 9.
Which was your favorite issue?
It was definitely the last one, just because you got to see the mayhem starting. It's like, okay, when are these bastards gonna start dying? Because
you mean number 3?
Yeah, number 3. Yeah.
Number
4. Number 4 was great. I liked the ending, but it's one of those things. It's like you get to the climax of a movie and now you're able to see that action. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like number 3 too, because that was where, so the whole book was on a checkerboard or a chessboard, and it was like the deck was stacked against Bleen the first 2 issues, but in issue 3 it was like the playing field was leveled, and you knew, like, even if it wasn't right then, you knew that she was going to get her payoff.
Yeah.
But as the story progresses, the first 2 issues are definitely different than the last 2 issues. But the story is concrete. Like, the story is sound through and through. But that 3rd issue just kind of was a perfect bridge, and it did a lot. It did a lot to level out the first 2 issues in half of the 3rd issue, and it didn't feel crammed. It was really good. Yep.
So we're about like almost 17 minutes in, and like, it was a short issue, but we want to bring on the guest because we have a lot of great questions to ask him, and just let him promote himself. Because
wait, don't say great questions, Ronnie, because that's a lot of pressure. Like, let's just do questions.
Because even though this is me and Jason's show, this is for John to shine, because he's here to promote his stuff and then what he's got on in the future. So we're gonna add him on.
The inspiration for this was indie comics horror. That was the beginning of this. So this is indie comics horror. Bleen is indie comics horror. So thank you for coming on, man. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jon Colunga.
Yeah. So with John, tell the audience, who's watching now or later, who you are and where you're at, and what made you first want to, dive into horror out of any other genre.
Well, the first thing that you guys kind of probably grew up in the same time era. I think we talked about that already. Goosebumps was like a pretty popular book series in the early 90s and also in the late 90s. And that was like, I did a lot of reading of Goosebumps. So R.L. Stine was really fun to read for me, and that's pretty much what got me into it. And also just a lot of the horror movies that became popular in the 80s and 90s and everything. And, we're talking about Gremlins, Hellraiser. There's kind of a lot of Hellraiser-esque stuff in Bleen, So, yeah, that's pretty much what got me into it.
Nice. Cool. This issue 4 had a pretty strong Freddy sequence in it. Like, it was, just with the what do you guys call them? The long
phantom. Yeah.
Yes, the long phantom. Like, just the chase down scene with him. It was epic, man. Like, it felt very Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well,
and Landon. I was going to say, Landon said that he didn't come up with the design, but you came up with the design of what, like, the Phantom should look like.
Yeah, it's actually because, as all writers are, we're kind of weird. One day I was walking. One day
I was saying there's no debate there.
One day I was walking down the street, and I kind of saw like a banana peel on the ground. And like when they get old, when they get like super old, they kind of turn black, and they look all weird and like kind of like something out of a like horror movie or something. And it just the idea was, I was just like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I have to make some kind of like rotten banana monster or something like that.
Yeah,
because it's really if you think about it, like how could you make like a banana monster and make it like scary? You know what I mean? Or not, or people kind of take it a little serious. more serious than goofy, you know.
Well, yeah, because it's like, you know, with my in-laws, they're Puerto Rican, so it's like my in-laws are just like, oh, the banana, you know, me as a you know, growing up in like a Caucasian family, it's like, oh, the bananas are black, it's time to throw them away. My mother's like, no, those bananas, that's the perfect time you want to make banana bread. So, you know,
yeah, exactly. But I actually didn't really have the name for the monster as the Long Phantom for a while. I was just calling him the Banana Man at first.
The Banana Man.
Nice.
And until I thought of something better, you know, and then I was writing the novel out one day. Like I said, I only got about 50 pages into it, but I was writing the novel out, and I was writing the scene where he kind of comes out from under the bed.
Yeah.
And she says, and there was just this dialogue I threw in there that Bleen says, where it says, "You sure are long," you know. And then he started talking, and so that part in the comic actually is from like that exchange they have where she says, "You sure are long," and then he says that he's a phantom, you know. So that's where, but and it's never really established that she's like, okay, I'm gonna call you the Long Phantom, but you just kind of hear her start calling him that later.
Yeah.
Just based off of those two, you know. But that's kind of how she is with everything in the book. If you actually read it, like she refers to things in very simple terms that kind of describes what they are. Like,
yeah, because you know, after all, she's a child, so you're not going to have this child come up with like this crazy name. It's going to be simple.
Yeah, so she's like, yeah, the you know, the fat man, the old creepy bastard, you know, the you know, all that stuff, you know. It's like, so
just, I don't know. I can feel like my own trauma through this book a lot. Like it's very approachable and relatable for a complex, you know, at the beginning, especially a supernatural subject. But it was almost endearing in a way. It was really good.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, like with me, you're gonna get some pretty dark stuff, but I also like to throw in like humor, and there was a lot of humor in it. I think without Victor, it probably wouldn't have had so much humor, but that's why he kind of fit like perfectly, you know. I was actually telling Ronnie about how he was like one of the last characters that I actually made. I didn't really build like from the start around Victor. It was more just Bart, and but when I added Victor in, this old creepy guy, and you know, it just kind of like brought it all together so perfectly, you know.
It definitely did, for sure. Yeah.
Without Victor, there is no, you know, he's like the character for the book, you know. Without him, it just wouldn't have been as good.
She would not have reached the dark level that she did without his level of
because
adversary.
Actually, you know what? Now that you mentioned that, that's a good point, because now I'm kind of having this epiphany right now that's probably what was wrong with Bart, was the fact that Bleen was weirder than him.
Exactly.
But Victor's so freaking weird that there's no way that Bleen was weirder than him. So it kind of gave the impression that she was the, like, you know, the victim of his weirdness, you know.
Yeah, she could have killed Bart without anything extra had he pushed her far enough, you know. But Victor was slimy, and
for sure.
It just added a new dimension.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you know, once Landon got so many of the pages done, that's when we started bubbling it in the computer. So I would be bubbling the pages, getting them set up, you know. I didn't really, I would just make like a little like circle, you know, where I wanted it to be in the panel, and then Landon would go in and do his magic, you know. He would make it look all cool and everything.
Nice.
But So I was bubbling the pages that he was already done with while he was working on the newer ones. And
Nice.
but anyway, whenever we would put in the dialogue, it was always funny with Victor. Like sometimes we would just be putting in the, just the stuff that I was typing out was just it just seemed so ridiculous that I was just like, I just couldn't help but laugh. But
Yeah.
Right. That's the best place to be in as a writer, because you're just kind of letting it go at that point.
Yeah,
just letting it be whatever it's supposed to be.
So it was kind of like almost therapeutic for me to write.
Yeah, because it has to be, because it's one of those things when you don't have fun with it and you're just so focused on getting the text there, sometimes the reader, at least I've known in other books that I've read in the past, especially with people that are just like making their first one and they're not focusing on almost, it sounds, when you're reading the book, it sounds like almost every single character talks the same way and carries the same way. And that's what's great about your characters, that you could literally tell that these characters, even if you're not able to clearly hear what they sound like, you get a sense on how the creepy old man, the way he would sound like if he's talking to these kids, the way the fat guy would be talking to these kids, like you could hear their voices because their personalities literally come through the book. And that's what's great as a writer. What you need to do as a writer is make sure that all your characters literally have a different personality.
Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult to write them like that.
Yeah,
I remember seeing some reviews on people. A lot of times they like to mention the fact that there's a lot of cussing in it, and some people are okay with it. Some people are like, "Oh, I could have done without the cussing." But if you actually go through and read the whole thing, okay, Victor, the most dark and demented character in the story, he never cusses one time.
Right.
Through the whole story. So it's kind of like, it's not like I was just throwing a bunch of cuss words in there, at random, just to make it seem edgy or something like that. The only characters that really cussed was like Bart, sometimes Bleen, and the female that was angry at Bleen for.
Well, it makes sense because Victor, he's this old, pervy man, so it would make sense that he wouldn't cuss and he would be like soft spoken because he's a pervert. So he's going to try to exactly, he's going to try to manipulate kids to like him, and then it's like, now I'm going to show you who I truly am, and I'm more of a monster than this guy who's literally yelling at your face and getting ready and threatening to hit you.
That guy was Victor was actually, it's kind of funny. Me and Landon made some like live action footage kind of stuff for Bleen. That we were going to use to promote it. I think it's on YouTube, but Landon would know where to find it. So, but what we did was we kind of dressed up his cousin as Victor, and no. No,
that's
I'm
funny.
good. It's funny because that's exactly what I was just talking about. That we made this this funny kind of video. It's supposed to be like real creepy, obviously, but we kind of dressed up his cousin as Victor, and his cousin was down for it. It kind of took us about 2 or 3 hours, to
That's funny.
No, the voice of Victor, not Bleen, But when we went back into when we edited it, like I kind of did the voiceover for Victor, and but it was just so funny. Like when we were filming him as Victor, like we had to stop so many times because we would just start laughing like uncontrollably, like because it was so ridiculous. But anyway, that's just a little fun fact.
Awesome.
I love it.
And
I love getting trivia.
Go ahead, Jason. Yeah.
No, exactly. I said I love getting trivia from the creators.
Yeah.
And we're Jason and we're both writers and everything, so this is definitely a great to have on because we have creators who are like writers and artists or just artists, but when you're like, okay, I want to make a comic and everything, why is the writing more important to you than the art, or do you do any artwork at all, like even on your own?
I can draw,
Hmm.
but yeah, like you kind of said in the yeah. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
weird. The when I was younger, I kind of had to make that choice, which
Hmm.
one was I going to kind of embrace more, the drawing or the writing. And um, I eventually kind of chose to do the writing more so because uh, I guess you could say that I was just never really a fan of drawing. It's pretty cool to do it, and like when you see like what you have done afterwards is really
Yeah.
interesting, and
Yeah.
but my passions just kind of lied more in like I said, like you were saying earlier about being able to bring these characters to life,
Hmm.
in some way. Um, Being able to, it's like creating little babies,
Yeah.
you kind of it's your kids,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and they're like little pieces of you, that you kind of
Hmm.
create, and um, so yeah, that's what I realized that I loved more than anything was being able to bring to life some kind of characters through like some interesting story or something like that.
Hmm.
That was always my favorite thing about watching movies or reading books.
Yeah.
Was the story aspect.
Hmm.
More so than like, oh, that looks really cool, or that's. Some people go down that path, and that's fine. There's a
Hmm.
lot of really talented artists out there, like Landon. Who like I said earlier, about him going all out on the art like that. I did tell him that he could pull back a little. I was just like, if it's getting to be too much, you can pull back on the detail. Just a little bit. But
Hmm.
no, he wanted to do it just exactly how he wanted to do it, and
That's
it ended
cool.
up
Yeah.
looking really good. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Totally. Yeah. I love writing because I feel like that I like drawing too, but I feel like that there's so many like fantastic artists that I love seeing their stuff.
hmm
I'm happy to, I would be happy to fall into a role of just like adding, adding a contribution to it versus, trying to split what I love doing with the other part. I love seeing somebody else's passion through at their best through my passion at my best. Like if I can give my
exactly.
100% to writing a story and somebody can give their 100% to drawing it, then it's going to be better
Yeah.
Yeah,
than if I gave 100% on both things.
Hmm.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I could understand that because I'm doing my horror comic, I'm doing the writing, and I'm
Yep.
doing the artwork and all that stuff. It's great to say I'm doing everything, but me and Jason, we got something going on in the back burner where I'm just going to do the art and Jason's going to done the writing. So it'd
Yep.
be nice to just focus on one thing
Yeah,
cuz
just do
cuz
half of it. Yeah.
young
Okay.
creators, I'm not going to lie, I'm not saying that it's not fun and awarding because you do everything, but it is challenging to do everything by yourself. It really is, especially when you're doing like a 30-40 page book like I am. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better feeling,
Oh, yeah.
I've actually finished well, I started writing this one novel in 2004, and
Mhm.
then I finished it in 2005, and it was kind of like one of the first things that I ever tried writing, So looking back on it, I'm just a little like, oh gosh, like ugh. It's kind of like looking back at your old art, from when you were like 20 years ago or something. And you're just like, wow, this is really bad. But I wouldn't say that it's bad story wise, but it's bad like grammatically and the spelling, the stories. I had no idea what I was doing basically. But I did finish it, and it was a full length novel.
Yeah.
And when you finish,
and how old were you guys?
Right now or back then?
Back then.
In 2005, I was 21.
Yeah, for most 21-year-olds, they were thinking about writing a novel. At least I wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I was literally waking up like drunk on the floor. I'm not gonna lie. Using a Captain Morgan bottle as a tree topper. I'm
not gonna lie. I do drink a little bit of wine whenever I write sometimes, but I remember trying certain other substances in writing at one point, and I sat there for 3 hours and got a page written.
Yeah, I don't know how Stephen King did it.
that was definitely not a good idea, and I thought it was like the best page ever. And then the next day, I went back and read it, and I was just like, what did I think was so great about this page? But yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask too, since you're mostly focused on writing, like, you and Landon are planning to work on another horror novel. And can you tell a little bit, like, not give too much away about what that's probably going to be about? Or you don't have pretty much like a good set idea yet?
Oh, yeah, I have it. I was actually writing it as a novel. I got a lot farther into it than I did Bleen.
Yeah.
I think I was approaching like the 100-page mark, but
nice.
Basically, it's a much different than Bleen, but it's still also good. It follows a very different format. Like I said, it's more fantasy, romance, tragedy, horror.
Yeah.
So the psychological aspect of it is really present in Bleen, whereas this one's going to be a lot more emotional. And, more. It's going to hurt you here more than here.
Gotcha.
So,
nice. I can't wait.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's what I was talking, and that's another thing I was talking about earlier. Like, I just can't write something that's not dark, and I've tried too, and it's so boring. Like,
but I mean, it's horror. You have to make it dark,
Yeah, but I mean, like, even something that's not just like straight up horror. Because I actually do have this other book series I'm writing. That's just words, novels.
I was going to ask you that if you were going to like ever like write just a novel without any images, since you like writing that much.
Yeah, I have a novel series that I'm working on.
Nice.
It's not really horror, but there is some dark stuff in it. Like I said, like I can't help but just kind of sprinkle that in there. But
like a dark fantasy. Yeah,
it's very dark fantasy oriented kind of novel series, and it's like I said, like so I have a friend who read the first book. I finished it. It's about, I want to say, 70,000 words, which is the standard length of like a regular novel.
Yeah.
And I remember one time. Yeah, I remember one time she was reading it. When she would ride her the light rail from work into Phoenix and then back to her home, and she was reading it on her phone whenever she would be traveling and stuff like that. And one time she actually texted me like in the middle of the night or something like that, just to yell at me because of something that was written in there that was so kind of like messed up and dark and everything. And I was like, sorry, you know. And
yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of funny.
Gotcha. You got anything else? You got something else to ask him, Jason?
No, like this has been a blast. Like I just kind of enjoyed just kind of kicking back and listening, you know, especially to, you know, after spending a year collaborating with an artist, like it's nice to hear insight from another creative team that worked on a long form project and is going back for more. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, me and Landon, we've known each other since 2005. Well, 4 actually. We met each other
that's
in
a long time.
Yeah, we met each other in 2004, but we didn't really start talking and becoming friends until the next year. But yeah, I mean, we just always had those ideas, like just like, you know, he always wanted to do stuff. I always wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2013 when we started working on Bleen that we really started, you know, doing it. You know, it was just like I think we both just were getting a little too close to 30, you know, and
I understand that.
Yeah, we were both I think we were both 29 at the time, and we were just like, we got to get something done, you know, like and. So even though I started writing Bleen in 2009, but we didn't start, you know, obviously I was kind of procrastinating on it a lot. And it wasn't until Landon kind of came to me with the idea. We were sitting inside of a restaurant one night and he was just like, you know, would you want me to draw it as like a graphic novel? And I was just like, you know, I was kind of like surprised by the question because I didn't think that that he was interested in making like a horror graphic novel.
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of like, yeah, sure. You know, I was like, if you know what you're getting into, you know, sure, you know. And so then we just kind of started, and I'll tell you, like when we got, because we kind of did it in 4 different increments, obviously.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think it was the only way that we actually got it done because of the fact that if you know, if we worked on it from the very start to the very finish in just one big, you know, project like that, probably would have been a little overwhelming. But when you break it up into little smaller pieces, you know what I mean, you kind of get a sense of finishing, you know, and every time you finish a little fraction. So
for sure.
But when we finished the first one, like we were really proud and really happy about it, and especially when we finally got someone to respond. Finally, you know? It was actually originally published with Alternate Comics.
Oh,
in 2014. No, yeah, in 2014. Cool. Yeah. So that was like a you know, but that only lasted maybe a couple years, and then you know, we kind of wanted to go in a different direction. And then Caliber actually, right when we started kind of like putting out feelers for different publishers and all that, sending out submissions and all that, Caliber Comics had just reestablished itself because it kind of went out of business, you know. It was pretty big in the 90s. It was actually where they published the original Crow graphic novel. And, was with Caliber Press. That's what it was called back then. And but the man who originally owned it, he passed away, and he kind of passed it on to his friend or something like that. This is just me, you know, thinking about it, that this is what happened. You know, I'm pretty sure, but and his name is Eric, and he basically took Caliber and made it more into a business again, and that's when we got reached out, and they were like, yeah, we'll publish it, and they did a lot more for us than yeah, Gary Reed. Yeah, I think he was the original Caliber guy. But they did a lot more for us than Alternate did, and not that I don't appreciate what Alternate did, but it's it's nice when they're like, because Alternate, all they did was put it on a digital platform, and so it was our job to kind of like promote it. So, but Caliber was actually willing to print it, in actual paperback, not graphic novels and stuff like that. And we were just like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah. So
That's awesome.
Some books need to exist physically to kind of that's the way that they're supposed to be experienced.
Yeah, there's something cooler about reading it in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of turning the pages and
Yeah.
For sure. So with this being a horror show, I would like to ask some questions like, what is your favorite horror movie?
Oh man. My favorite horror movie. Does it have to be for like serious reasons or
Nope, just your favorite horror movie.
Okay, my favorite horror movie just in general, I would say is probably Gremlins.
Yeah?
Yeah. Even I don't even know if it's considered a horror movie. I know that it's
they kill people. They really do. We forget about
it's a horror
that.
movie, yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely consider it a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like Gremlins.
It's like saying, not consider Gremlins as a horror movie. It's trying to say that you don't consider Goosebumps as a horror novel or horror books just because they're aimed towards kids,
Yeah. I think it's also just because I kind of like the concept of mixing up contrast. Kind of like mixing up something like innocent and with like this other, with like a darker element.
Yeah,
that's actually I've noticed that's really present in a lot of my writing actually. But Gremlins, it's like that. They kind of, it starts off as just one. What they call the Mogwai. The
Mogwai. Yep.
Gizmo. He's just like this cute little guy, and and then he multiplies with water, and and then it just kind of gets out of hand after that. And
Gizmo was like a bad decision away from being Stripe.
Right?
Like it was all there. But Gizmo was just cute.
I actually got into like a really funny debate about Stripe with one of my friends, and because we were saying like, was he really a bad guy, or was he just having fun? And, it was kind of a strange debate, but because at the end of the movie where he's like, where Gizmo is driving around in that little car and stuff like that, I think he calls him. I think he calls him his brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
He considers Gizmo to still be like his brother. So it's like,
if there were no people, it didn't matter which one they were. Like they just would have been like, look at what they did. Like they just went to the bar. Like they all just went to the bar. Like some assumed a life of crime. I don't know how they figured out, like how that one figured out to put a mask on his head. But it was like
or the one open up his trench coat, or the one open up his trench coat like he's flashing people when he had nothing there.
Yeah.
Solid movie. Yeah.
I like Gremlins, but I also like the more serious kind of stuff. Interview with the Vampire is one of my favorite movies. Not just because of
rest in peace, Anne Rice.
Yeah, rest in peace, Anne Rice. But it was like I think Interview with the Vampire kind of gives you a more realistic version of what it would be like to actually be a vampire.
Yeah.
Like the mental aspect of it. You know, it's
Yeah.
not so much like, oh, we're beautiful going around, you know, sitting in hot tubs and, you know.
Like my favorite vampire movie, Lost Boys, you know, love
Yeah,
it. But,
yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
definitely Interview with the Vampire shows like that tragic part of being immortal.
Yeah, being immortal and having to kill people.
Yeah.
To satisfy, having to kill people to satisfy a certain thirst. Because, you know, they could survive off of animals, but they were far more miserable though. So it was just like
right.
But anyway, and just also like Kirsten Dunst, like she does. I think that like ironically is like probably her best acting job like in her career. You know.
Yeah.
Because I kind of watch like her and other stuff, you know, and I'm just like, you know, she wasn't really that good in, you know, any of the movies that she was an adult, you know. But that's just my opinion, you know. So
yeah,
sure, yeah.
But she does such a good job in the Interview with the Vampire. Like you just, you know, I don't know why. It's just weird. But there's a lot of cool movies. Like, go ahead,
Jason.
No, I was gonna say it's not a movie I haven't seen. I have to check it out.
Interview with the Vampire. Oh yeah, it's really good.
All right,
it'll kind of leave you with that same feeling that Bleen does.
Yeah,
just kind
of
nice. Like, I remember reading a review online about Bleen that was like, the guy basically said, you know, if you're looking for something light and breezy to read, then skip this book. He's like, skip this book. He's like, but if you're looking for something that's going to leave you feeling like hopeless and melancholy, then this is the book for you. And I was just like, well, I was like, all right,
I'll take it.
I was like, that's not my intention, but you know,
right.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And since you are, you know, a horror movie fan and stuff like that, what would be your favorite like 80s horror slasher? You know, out of Michael, Freddy, Chucky, anything. What was your favorite slasher as a kid?
Michael, the slashers. I wasn't really so much into the slashers when I was growing up or as an adult, but
yeah.
But there's something like a little extra creepy about Chucky, you know?
Yeah, gotcha.
Like obviously Jason is very intimidating, and you know you can't really kill him and all that. And Freddy Krueger is very. I was gonna say Freddie Mercury.
It's like he's on my wall.
Yeah, that guy, man. Freddy Krueger, you know his he kind of goes into people's nightmares, which is creepy. But basically, like the fact that Chucky is just like a serial killer's like soul trapped inside of a doll. That's really creepy.
I haven't watched the TV show yet, but my sister said it was really good.
I've heard good things about the show too. What was wild about Child's Play was like not only was this like a serial killer's soul, but it's like he actually got put into Chucky's body like through a satanic ritual. Just like right there. It was a lot. It was a lot to like cram in, but very well done, you know.
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say of that era of movies, of the ones that I've seen so far, like the first Nightmare on Elm Street it was really scary. Like it was a good movie. Like I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I like it.
Like what I thought was funny with Chucky, and my sister, she would, if she was here, she would tell you, because during the same time when Chucky came out with My Pal Guy, you had My Buddy, you know, and My Buddy looked exactly like Chucky with the overalls, with the shirt, and it's like My Buddy and Me, like there was the boy version and the girl version.
That's what's so much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and that was what's even great and made the Chucky even seem more real, because you literally had like a toy that looked exactly like Chucky, and it came out like, I think, if not 6 months, but a year before Chucky came out. So
Yeah.
my
I'm gonna
sister
have
was
that
like,
My Buddy
yeah,
theme song stuck
mhm,
in my head for the
yeah.
rest of the night now.
And my
Jeez.
and my
Yeah.
sister and my sister actually loved My Buddy. She loved it until Chucky came out. So
My
then,
buddy and me. Yeah.
Yeah.
my older siblings trying to get me
So
my
creepy.
older siblings trying to get me
Yes.
to try to help them, you know. So it was funny to watch my older siblings try to get me to help them to like find ways to like put My Buddy in the closet or in the bathroom, so when she's seen him, My Buddy, she would get scared. So yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
again, that's what's so creepy
Mhm,
about Chucky is that it's not some monster coming out of a lake,
mhm.
to come and kill you. It's not some thing that it's moving into your home. You
Yeah.
know, it's amongst you and your, the
Yeah.
innocence and peace of your home, and then
Mhm.
it kind of, slowly reveals itself.
Yeah.
That part to me, especially as a child, was always super creepy. With the part where the mother finally figures out that it's alive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because she's gonna throw him into the fireplace,
Yeah.
and before she does, he knows he's gonna get toasted, so he's like, so he has to start moving, and she's just like, "Wah!"
Yeah, right.
That
Yeah,
part is so
because
creepy,
it's
man.
it's basically one of those things
Yeah,
that for little
like
kids
you have to put
especially.
yourself in the shoes of the character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's one of
Yeah.
those things, especially for like little kids. It's one of those things like, besides imaginary friend, your favorite toy as a kid is like your very first best friend.
yeah,
And they took that concept and made it to where you don't want nothing in your room
yeah.
looking at you at night, you know.
Yeah. Like,
And
why did he had a suitable size knife? That was the
yeah.
oddest thing.
Yeah,
Like, it was
his
like
little hand.
appropriate
Yeah,
for him to
Mhm.
handle,
yeah,
Yeah.
But he
And
was
it's
good
like,
at it. He
mhm.
was definitely
and
good at it.
and if you don't want to just say like child's play, go with Polka Guys with the clown toy. You know, that was a very intimidating clown toy, and it scared a lot of kids that watched that movie for the
yeah,
first
yeah,
time.
yeah, and yeah, just so. But I think that's why I also have some weird thing where I like to put small things in my right the monster designs that I make and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
there's a lot of small things, and there's like numerous ones of them.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
To
was
me,
saying
that
you
was
had
always,
two small monster mobs,
yeah,
like in two different
Yeah,
parts
yeah,
of the book. Yeah.
yeah,
exactly.
and it like I said that because it always just creeped me out like a lot when I was growing up. Just the thought of like a bunch of little monsters, uh,
It's
invading
the
your house or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the whole would you rather fight, like 1,000 regular sized chickens or one human sized chicken? You
Mhm.
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
exactly. It's like,
yeah, you're off balance because they're little, like you can't really, and I think that we're kind of like hardwired to like stop before we hurt
Mhm.
something little, which
Yeah,
is
for
all
sure.
the
yeah,
advantage that
exactly.
it
Yeah,
needs,
yeah.
so
Mhm.
It can easily
it's
manipulate you to be like,
yeah,
yeah,
you already lost, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's why, even with like Pet Cemetery, like the little kid killing people, that was more intimidating than seeing like the cat or the wife come back from the dead. Because you're not going to get scared by seeing this little kid, but then literally you see the kid like rip the old man's throat out with his mouth.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty creepy. I was a fan of Hellraiser too when I was growing up,
Yeah.
which is something that a small child should not be watching.
Oh, I agree.
But but I always thought Pinhead was like so cool.
Hmm.
I always
Yeah, the
like I
the
kind of
the
was
look.
I was kind of like a pretty big fan of Pinhead when I was growing up,
Mhm.
and just because he was like so scary, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're just like this guy's got like nails in his head, and just all in his head, and it's like doesn't seem to be bothering him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, what's wrong with you, dude? Like,
Yeah.
are you aware of what's happening here?
yeah.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
And so it's just, the Cenobites were pretty cool, and obviously, like when it comes to like the Long Phantom and some of the monsters in Bleen, like I kind of put a little bit of a Cenobite kind of, vibe on them, and then Landon.
Yeah, especially with the rabbits, I noticed that.
Yeah, the rabbits, and also just the Long Phantom's body, the way that it's kind of like black, and he kind of looks like it's like a black leathery suit, or
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Oh,
But,
I think okay,
Yeah, I was a pretty big fan of all that kind of stuff. So
we appreciate y'all, Landon. Thanks, man.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I mean, we're a small channel, but we like horror. We really do. I always say that I'm happy that I made that decision. I wish Ogre was still with us, but I look forward to.
He's not
talking with
dead.
Jason.
He's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
He's not around us.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure everybody.
yeah,
But yeah, he's not dead. But yeah, it's
Okay,
just great, to start this channel, and just it has grown so much more than I thought it ever would, and it's great to meet like you, Landon, Gary, and so many other people who
for sure.
love to write and draw horror stuff, because it's like I say, it's making mini comics, indie comics is not like the greatest paying job, and sometimes you don't make money off of it for like a couple of years until someone finds it and spreads the word. And even if you focus on horror, because mostly everything's superheroes,
Yeah,
so
yeah. In the comic world, especially, it's hard to make anything new, mainly
sure.
because of the business aspect of it.
Yeah.
They don't want to spend too much money on new ideas.
Yeah,
because they know the old ideas are gonna make money.
They've worked
Exactly.
before, so it's the only thing that's ever going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're bad ideas. Like I love the superheroes. I always said that, like Batman. Do you guys remember Batman, the animated series from the 90s?
Oh yeah,
Of course.
absolutely.
It was like I always watched that for the villains.
Yeah.
Instead of Batman himself, because I was just like,
They did establish some like solid villains in that series.
They did a lot of good. They created some, like Harley Quinn, and
And I still think one of my favorite comics of Batman is The Longest Halloween. Just a really good book.
Yeah, and I think that in Batman the animated series, it's the only thing out there that's Batman that did every single villain like just right. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they really started grasping for the villains, because they were like, okay, we've already done this villain a lot. So they were bringing in like villains like I think her name's Baby Doll or something like that.
Yeah, the woman couldn't grow up. She was always a little child. Yeah.
And then she ended up in looking like a weird little doll and everything. Yeah. And the Mad Hatter, those episodes were always really weird. Whenever it was the Mad Hatter. But yeah, I mean, and they just did all the villains good. Catwoman was really good.
Scarecrow,
Scarecrow was good. Clayface was really.
Clayface was awesome.
Oh, Clayface, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if they could ever make like a live movie with Clayface, but I mean, with today's technology,
there now.
who knows?
We're close enough. Yeah.
And it was like he was. That was a really cool series. Just simply for the villains, I always liked the Spider-Man villains too. They were kind of a little weird and bizarre.
Yeah.
But
Clayface, that animated part, those episodes were like, very horror related, especially when you first met him and Batman had all the different images of that actor when he played all those different
Yeah,
movies, and he would like shapeshift and couldn't keep form. He was just changing through all the different people that
Yeah.
he played as an actor, like the
yeah,
Western guy, the scientist. Yeah,
yeah.
just
That
really good scene. That was a really horrific scene as a kid.
yeah, it was. We were. I was just kind of like, what is going on with this?
Hmm.
And, but it was very well animated too. That scene.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably took a long time to animate all that movement and.
Oh yeah,
morphing and
especially during that
everything like
time
Yeah.
with
I always
animation
said
cells.
if DC had just created their cinematic legacy with their animated series, they would
Yeah,
have been
Justice League
fine.
was great.
Like
You know,
all those DC cartoon shows, starting with Batman the animated series, like
Mhm.
Into Superman and Justice League. I
Batman
enjoyed all of
Beyond.
those shows. I thought they were all really good. Yeah, Batman
Yeah.
Beyond was awesome.
Mhm.
X-Men.
Oh yeah.
The X-Men cartoon
X-Men
in
is-
the 90s was amazing.
Yeah.
It was
And then there was also the Spider-Man cartoon
Mhm.
on Fox Kids. That
on
was
Fox
also
Kids.
good.
Yeah,
That was
Yep.
also a really good one.
Well, yeah, like
Fox
me and John,
was-
John
yeah.
was talking about if they ever wanted to take a Disney movie, I mean a Disney cartoon show that was like almost like horror related, I would love to see a live action Gargoyles movie. That
Oh,
would
now
be
that's a
cool.
blast from the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that with how much Hollywood is reaching out for ideas right now, they might actually do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did Bane really well too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Bane was good in the animated series. Yeah,
Yeah, better
They
even
all-
than the movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, we got to be right in the same. Yeah, we got to be right in the same, right around the same.
Yeah,
age.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
I know
all the same.
Jason is a couple years older than me, but still,
Yeah,
it's one of
I'm
those things like,
41. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm 36, so if
Yeah.
we were all young, we would all be in the same like, high school together at just at
Yeah.
different grade levels.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everything was really cool about
Yeah.
back then, and there's like a certain spirit. It's kind of like with wrestling,
Hmm.
wrestling in the 80s and 90s kind of had this spirit and this quality.
The Attitude Era.
That part too, but
Mhm.
that you can't ever recapture.
Mhm.
Nope.
It's kind of like, for some reason, like you just can't recapture it. It's like, I love watching.
I grew up on 80s NWA, NWA and WCW. And in my mind, it was like WWF was pro wrestling and that was fake. But Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, like that shit was real. Like, nobody can tell me any different.
Yeah.
Until my dad was like, "No, Jason, why do you think that guy holds his legs straight up in the air when he's getting ready to get suplexed?" And I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But then you'd be like, explain ECW then when they first came out. Yeah.
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 Hmm.
But just a lot of the characters, a lot of the but it's also just because of like how the world has changed. I think that the fact
It's harder
that
for
back
us to
then-
not believe things. It's harder for us to suspend disbelief now.
Yeah, we were a bit more naive back then. Well, obviously because we were kids, but I think that it was also popular with adults back then too.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Well, yeah,
Because-
going back to horror, you know how many people actually believe the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was based off of a true story? Like there was really a guy named Leatherface out there,
Leatherface,
you know?
Yeah, but it's just kind of like it was like waiting for the Monday night shows, and because back then there was no way to just access things,
Yeah.
Nowadays you can access and watch whatever you want as long as you can find the platform and probably or pay for it if you have to, but as long as you can access whatever, you can watch it, but back then we had to wait, until Monday night. You know, there was the Monday Nitro. There was Monday Night Raw. You know, and
Saturday
you
morning
had to be there at
cartoons.
7 p.m. You know, you had to be there at your TV at 7 p.m. You know, with your snacks.
Yeah.
Usually by 6:30 or so, you're like getting prepared. You know, you're like, all right, I'm gonna get my food and my, you know,
whatever was on TNT. Whatever was on TNT from like 7:15, I watched because I didn't want any kind of commercial to come on about Monday Nitro and miss something that I should have seen, even though nothing ever happened. But I was there for it.
Yeah, and so, but it's interesting though, you know, because I think that the business aspect of wrestling and why it became successful can be applied to like a lot of things, you know. I think if you can understand the business aspect of that, you can understand the business aspect of anything and sell anything to anyone because literally like it's so bizarre, you know, if you think about the concept of wrestling, it became like this multi-million-dollar business, you know. And it wasn't just kids, it was adults, kids, you know, everything that and it was all based off of these guys
loved it.
Stepping into a ring and pretending to fight each other in underwear. You know what I mean? That was like that's what it is. And it's so bizarre, but it's like, you know,
it's like we need to bring a horror aspect into it. And, you know, I see now a couple people that are trying to like make horror related. There's never going to be anyone that's ever going to take over Undertaker's legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be creepy like Undertaker. Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy was I actually saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it was actually it was really cool to see him kind of finally break his character and just kind of talk.
He was committed. Like if he was wrestling, he was not going to do interviews and all that stuff. Not
for
in character.
Decades, for decades he was committed. Yeah.
Well, guys,
be that big and scary and be 6'8", like a legit, you know, 6'6", 6'8".
And he was fast for his height.
Yeah.
So in a podcast that's about horror comics and Bleen, we'll end on the note of wrestling.
Yeah, right. Hey, it's all right, man.
Hey, if you say wrestling to me, I'm all for it. Like, you know, that's it. I got a wrestling comic in the works. You know, I did one in the minis. We did a 3-part wrestling series, and I'm gonna extend it. You know, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right. Well, John, thank you for coming on.
John, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
No
and you know, we offer this out to anyone. You know, if we ever do an episode where we're just hitting the breeze, just talking about a related horror topic, if you have free time, you could come along and just chit chat and have fun and talk about the topic with us.
Yeah.
So, well, I hope everyone has a great weekend. See y'all next week. Bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.